did start to get involved with it, we just hit up every school, and we came here, and this is going to be our home.
So now in this whole process, Troy, did you hit a lot of the camps to get that exposure? How did that process work for you?
Yes, sir. So freshman year going into the sophomore year, I think I went to like 3 or 4 schools. And then that sophomore year going into the junior year, when I committed that summer, I might have gone to maybe 15 schools and just multiple schools twice, all that. And when I came out here for the last time in the summer, I was like, this is home. Like, this is where I want to be.
And we often hear from recruits, they use the expression, it feels like family here.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you also felt like, Jay?
Absolutely, 100%. We came in, and Coach Danny felt like a father figure, even though he's younger than 15 years, 20 years younger than me. But he was just a great mentor, coach, and all the staff are. That's just the way they run their program. It starts with Coach Franklin.
Well, I want to ask you, Troy, because this is a question. It's always fascinating to me, talk to the recruits and asking this question. James Franklin, always called an outstanding recruiter. What was it like for you, that first face-to-face meeting with James Franklin?
It was a little intimidating. I was a little scared at the time, but, I just knew he was really like every single thing he said, all the words he said had a purpose to it. And I knew that he was going to be a guy that I could follow.
Now, in going through this process, I get fascinated by people who explain the process, how they do it. There are people who make up lists with check marks, pros and cons of each school. And then there's others who are just, it's feel. You know it when you see it. I'll start that question with you, Jay. How, as a father, I'm sure you want to make sure it's right for Troy, the right fit. How did you go about that?
I can't say I'm any different than anybody else. I had my black book. I wrote pros and cons. I wrote tradition. I wrote all those things. But then at the end of the day, it did come down to feel, and it came down to what do we value, and you value, the people, right? And so that's what we decided on.
How about for you, Troy? You talked about when you were here, the visits. What was the point where it's like, that's it, Penn State is the place I want to be?
For me, it's just I've been to school so many times, and a lot of people go to school so many times, and they're just unsure. But like, it only took a couple of times of being out here, and I was just like, something just hit my heart, and I was like, this is the place I want to be. I want to play for this many, like the fans here, the stadium, all that, the atmosphere, just came down. I was like, I want to play for Coach Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Now, you've been here for games, but have you been here for a whiteout before?
I have not, no, sir. So I'm really excited tomorrow.
So what is it you expect to see tomorrow in a whiteout? What are you excited about seeing?
I think seeing all those videos and just barely even being able to hear, I think I'm expecting that. So that's going to be really cool.
So now, when you're both at the game tomorrow, Jay, are you going to be able to keep yourself from picturing in a couple years your son is the guy running out of the tunnel and being the guy out on the field?
I can see it, but I know there's going to be a lot of work to do. There's 5 other quarterbacks in that room who want that same dream. So I think it's going to come down to hard work. But yeah, absolutely, I can see it. I can envision it.
Well, you obviously have to be a competitor just to reach this level and be part of it. But you've got to learn that competitive nature growing up. Where I'm headed with this, I understand you and Dad are both golfers.
Yes, sir.
So how important is it to beat Dad, and who's the better golfer?
Me and him, we go golfing, try to every Sunday during the season, and just get out there, relax, calm down. But it's so competitive all the time. So I'm always trying to beat him every single week. Recently, I'm 2-0 against him in the season, so I have beat him twice in a row.
Okay, I was going to say, for the longest time, that was a non-answer answer of who was better. But you did point out 2-0. Dad?
The last couple of weeks he's had me. My boy Nate and we've lost in the best ball match. But, let's put it this way. I got him some brand new clubs that are really helping his game out, And,
he also bought some brand new clubs. Too, so
he left out that part.
Left out that part.
But my driver's a little bit old, so it needs a little bit of work on that.
Is it the driver's old, or the tool, or the carpenter?
Well, I think the carpenter's getting back into the game, but he's making his way back. So when he comes back home next year, we'll have a much more competitive matchup.
Okay, now you two guys, you get out golfing, but you're the only guys in the family, right? You have sisters.
Three sisters, yes, sir.
And they're also pretty good athletes.
They are.
So I always like to put you on the spot. You got 3 sisters, yourself, mom and dad. Who's the best athlete in the family?
The best athlete in the family, I think, might be the oldest sister.
Yeah.
And so I might have to give it to her.
That's pretty nice. Dad, you agree?
I'd agree. Well, I'm not going to say anything against Abby. She's got the most fire in the family. She's a softball pitcher, but Mom was great in her own right, and our youngest daughter, Mallory, she's up and coming, so she's a basketball player.
Very good. Well, let's talk a little bit about where you're headed here. A lot of players now are finishing high school early, enrolling in January.
Yes, sir.
What are your plans?
I'm planning on joining the team in December.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
Graduate early December, as early as possible. Still trying to figure all that out, but that's the plan. Just be out for all for the playoff games. It's pretty much just a whole season if I'm with them. So learn as much from Drew and just learn as much as possible before that spring ball hits too.
And that is such an advantage for players to go through that spring process. 100%. It's almost like you get such a leg up on those who can't come out until the summer. Now, you had mentioned Danny O'Brien, who's the Penn State quarterback coach. I'm sure you've met Andy Kotelnicki. Tell me about that. Tell me about that interaction.
Our relationship is just so great. I mean, the love that he shows me and the love that I show him is just back and forth. And I know that he's a guy that I respect with all my heart, and that he's going to be able to develop me into becoming my dream of the NFL. And Coach K is obviously a mastermind with what he does. And so watching him every single Saturday, the plays he calls for people, and it's special.
Now, you've seen, obviously, last season, some of the plays, some of the designs of those plays. That's got to be a lot of fun. But oftentimes last year, they would have the Wildcat quarterback, Tyler Warren in, or Bo Perbula in, and Drew Allen would stay in the game, go outside. But I don't think they never threw him the ball. It was a double pass, throw back. Have you been telling Coach Kotelnicki, look, if I'm out there, I want to run a pattern. I want to catch a ball. Have you told him that?
I have not. My plan is to be throwing those touchdowns, not catching them.
Again, that goes back. He doesn't want to be in the trenches getting hit, right?
Right. I mean, one of his former coaches thought he was going to be a tight end, so we'll just tell him that he was wrong.
Well, there's the history, at Penn State. Several of the quarterbacks have become tight ends. Like Tyler Warren, he was a quarterback in high school. And ended up a tight end. It worked for him.
Definitely. But that's not the plan for me. But it definitely works out.
I'm sure some of the coaches are probably listening, and it's like, what the heck is that guy talking about? We're bringing him in as a quarterback. Now, you had mentioned getting the chance to meet Drew Aller. What has that been like?
It's super special. I look up to him a lot, and I just think he's doing a great job of what he's doing this year, and he's going to have a big rest of the year, and I'm excited to watch him play tomorrow at a high level. And I just think when I first met him, he was a guy that was so down to earth, and he's just a normal guy when you really get to know him, and so a lot of respect for him.
All right, I'll tell you what, I know you have to head out. You're got a meeting to get to. I appreciate so much both of you coming in.
Yes, sir.
Very good guest.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you won't be a stranger. We got to get you on the show again.
Definitely, for sure.
Absolutely.
Jay, thank you.
Anytime.
Troy, thank you. And we are going to go to break. We got lots more to go, though. I'm going to bring in Chris Buchanani and Mike Villagrana when we come back.
WFXS, once again, your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority. WFXS America. 98.7, the Fox State College.
Happy Valley United is the NIL collective that serves all 31 sports and over 850 student athletes at Penn State. These opportunities allow student athletes to engage with charitable causes and participate in business engagements to build their brands while making a positive impact. The collective connects fans, alumni, businesses, and charities with student-athletes harnessing the power of Nittany Nation. Go to happyvalleyunited.com to connect with your favorite Nittany Lion team.
Whether a department outing, entertaining your clients, or reconnecting with your family and friends, let Revel XP take the hassle out of tailgating. Simply show up and immerse yourself in the tailgating experience. Full service includes bellhops helping upon arrival and tear down when you're ready to leave. Revel XP elevates your tailgate. Reach out to us directly at 814-933-4100 or go to revelxp.com for more info.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
Hello and welcome to Friday Football Frenzy, brought to you by Keystone Sports Network, Fox Sports Radio 98.7, and Happy Valley United, the Penn State collective supporting over 800 student athletes. Now, let's start the football frenzy.
Hello and welcome back to the Friday Football Frenzy on Fox Sports 98.7, brought to you by Happy Valley United, the Penn State collective. They service over 800 student athletes across 31 sports. I am Jim Galante with my colleague Chris Buchanani. You know him as the host of the obligatory pregame show.
Hey, everybody.
And making his way in, Mr. Mike Villagrana. First of all, Mike, got to thank you for making the arrangements. We got Troy Hun, who the 26 quarterback commit all the way from California. He and his family are in for the whiteout game. We had both Troy and his dad, Jay, in. Thanks so much they were fantastic.
Oh, they were awesome. And thank you guys for doing this. This is a great setup. Something great for us to do. And what people don't realize with Troy is he's paid accept now. So when a student athlete becomes paid accept, we can basically treat them like they're one of our players. So a lot of those recruiting restrictions are kind of out the door. Coach talked about just the other day. It's funny. He'll do stuff like this, and he'll do home visits with guys that people don't understand that they're paid accept, and then we'll get compliance out of the wazoo to us. Hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. But when you have guys like Coach Franklin, Andy Ferring setting things up like this, it's very calculated, and we're able to do stuff like that.
Mike, can you explain for the folks?
The paid accept
Yes.
means. Yeah, that was where I was headed. Could you explain a little more what paid accept means?
Yeah, so a guy commits to the school, and then when he is going through the process as far as getting accepted to Penn State or whatever school that is, they'll go through that process. They'll pay the dues and whatever that process is for that university from a registration standpoint. And once he's accepted, then he's basically one of the players.
Interesting.
Yeah, so those limitations go off the board, which is pretty neat, and that's why you see a lot of schools try to rush to get that done. It locks them in. One,
sure.
And then two, you can do cool stuff like this.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what I thought was fascinating, when talking to a recruit who's committed, it's always the question, why Penn State? And, Troy gave the answer. He's locked in. He couldn't imagine now being anywhere else. This is where he wants to be. And, of course, it's about the family atmosphere, that type of thing, which is always fantastic to hear when you talk to commits. And it wasn't just Troy, but his dad, Jay, you could see it was the same thing. The whole family was locked into Penn State.
Yeah, in my opinion, we talked about the last show about the type of kid that is recruited here and the type of kid that Coach Franklin has been recruiting for the past 12 years. They're just good people. Just talking to Jay out there, that was the first time me meeting Jay. And he's just a perfect fit. They're good people. They have, a good, base around them. And, they're from all the way from California, and they just still feel like a great fit here. And, Jay just shared with me, he just thinks, Troy is just going to fit in here perfectly.
You could tell just the personality. I don't know if you caught it, Chris, in chatting with the two of them, just the interaction between the two of them. I tried to tease them about golfing together, and I tried.
You were trying to stir up some trouble, is what you were trying to do.
Yes, I was trying to stir it up, and they wouldn't let me. But even just the body language between the two of them, you could see how close they are.
You like that in your young quarterback, unflappability under pressure. That was good. That's a great start to his Penn State career.
Yeah, but it was the typical of what you would expect as two golfers. When Troy said, well, we're different kinds of golfers. I said, let me guess, Troy, you're the guy who's long off the tee. Yep.
It's interesting because, we talked a little bit. We were texting back and forth this week. I like Troy as a prospect a lot. I think he's going to fit in really well here from a football standpoint from Penn State. So, of course, it does make sense based on what we know about what James has been doing on the recruiting trail that he fits from a culture perspective. But what I think is interesting, Mike, is flashing back to what we talked about when we did our first show here last week over the bye week, talking about the process of building from where the program was at when James got hired to where it is now. A big step forward in that was the ability to recruit nationally and go out and find top prospects in some of the hotbeds outside Penn State's traditional recruiting footprint. And now we got a quarterback recruit coming in the class of 2027 who's from California.
Yeah. I mean, when you see blue bloods like this, then they're able to go outside of their footprint or their region and get guys that are attracted to us from California. That's when we're there. We're at the top.
Yeah, a little closer to home. I mean, I think we've got certainly a possible first-round pick in Venga Ioane on the offensive line, and he's a Washington kid.
Exactly. And, not to jump forward, but I will to the recruiting list. We have over 200 recruits here this weekend, and 23 states, I believe, is represented. 23.
Wow.
23 states. We got kids from Texas, just everywhere.
Kind of setting up where we're going to talk today. You said so 200, thereabouts.
Yeah, about 200.
My understanding, Mike, is that makes this literally the biggest from a numeric standpoint recruiting weekend Penn State's had.
Yeah. I was joking with some of the guys, around the office. I said, how are you guys going to do this? Because usually it's about, you want to make every visit special for each kid individually. But the whiteout has become such a magnified thing that everybody knows about in the country that it's about the game, right? So these guys are coming for the game. So it's not all about doing all the different things. And I talked about this a little bit on our last show, but they're not going to see academic advisors. There's going to be a lot of people around them in the recruiting lounge that they can talk to about that type of stuff. But it's all about this game.
What I find interesting is over the years how critical the whiteout game has been to a player's decision. So oftentimes when we talk to a recruit or someone who has committed, and you ask why, they will so often reference the whiteout game, the experience. And it wasn't, gee, they took me to dinner. It was the vibe in the stadium.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody that hasn't been to a whiteout, they don't understand. It's hard until you actually experience a whiteout. And, we did a funny thing with our players. They were walking the building, and we asked them, say one thing about their whiteout, and from a recruiting standpoint, and they said that's what basically made my decision. Because it's that powerful. 110,000. I don't know what we're going to get in there tomorrow, but 110,000, all white. And the way that our stadium is compared to the other big stadium, I think it's the best because it kind of blocks in that noise. It's special. Shout out to Buffalo Wild Wings and Steve Grube, who's actually here today. Him and his family, first whiteout. I said,
yeah.
You guys have no idea. And they're from Columbus. So they're really going to get a taste of what a good atmosphere is.
Taking advantage of comparing atmospheres there. Good job, Mike. That's where we want to go. That's where we want to head with it. Well, it's like, and we did talk about this last week. It's different. It's special. And this, I'll still go back to this statement. Fans are not attending this event to watch. They are here to be part of the event, Chris. This is the fans are the show.
Yeah, well, I mean, College Game Day's here. I saw some pictures from shout out to Mike Poorman. Got his picture taken with Kirk Herbstreit and Pete out on their walk this morning. Goes all the way back to the 05 Ohio State game 20 years ago now. And Kirk at halftime of that game saying that whiteout student section is the best student section in the nation. And I've always said that was Kirk giving us a reputation to live up to. And ever since then, there has been this change in the culture around the fan culture around the program, that it's understood that when you're one of the fortunate few who gets to have a ticket and be on the inside of the stadium during especially one of these games, it's incumbent on you to be part of that hostile environment that has made the whiteout and Beaver Stadium in general one of the toughest places to play in college football. So, yeah, the participatory aspect of it, it's a change from when I was an undergrad. I will tell you that for sure.
Oh, it's a huge change. In fact, we talked about it last week that Beaver Stadium was once known as a quiet venue. Obviously, that
it used to drive me nuts. I'd be like, we've got 98,000 people in here. How are we not making more noise? It would drive me insane.
And Mike, I don't know if you're tired of saying it, but it always comes up. You've had the experience in the ACC, Southeast Conference. You've seen the other venues, and you've said about the whiteout, nothing compares to a whiteout. What is it in your mind that makes the whiteout so special compared to what you see elsewhere?
I just think when you pull up into say college and you finally see that stadium, and depending where you come in, I forget what the roads are, but sometimes when you go, you're just driving in the middle of nowhere, and then boom, you see this
99,
this beautiful, massive stadium, and that's one that kind of like hits you, man. This thing is awesome. Like I've never really gotten that feeling at a lot of the places that I've been. And then you go into the game and it's all white. I always say it's the best tailgate scene that I've been around. You have 110,000 inside, and then you got another 150,000 people outside that can't get into the game, all in white. So yeah, like I always say it, when, I was at Mississippi State and they're talking about their kettlebells, I'm like, well, that's real cute. That has nothing on a whiteout. Even, I was at LSU night game. And we had a pretty good team that first year at Mississippi State. But still, that was loud. It was great, but it didn't compare to a whiteout to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot. And Chris, you and I have talked about the history of the whiteout.
Yeah.
You are, as someone came in, you're the professor.
You got to stop saying this, Jim. There are people who are like real professors who have done the work to get like doctorates. They do not like it when people call me this. Okay.
Do you know that will not? You know that will not deter me at all.
Probably encourages you, but go ahead.
Yes, essentially it does. So you are a professor of Penn State football. You know the history. Now, my question isn't going to be to recite the history of it, but explain to me why this has become the greatest show in college football. How did it get from this modest beginning, from there to here, where it is now?
Sure. Well, it dates back to the turn of the 21st century, where Penn State starts the 2000s with 4 losing seasons in 5 years. Totally unprecedented in the history of the program. Paterno's coaching at the time. He had his first losing season in his career in 1988. You had to go back 50 years prior to that to find another losing season of Penn State football. So to do it 4 times in 5 years was absolutely unheard of. There was one coach in the universe who could survive that kind of stretch, but Joe did. And so coming toward the end of it, Guido D'Elia, the director of marketing and branding at the time, probably an unappreciated hero in the Penn State football story, he was looking for ways to channel what was still, to the everlasting credit of the student body at the time, still enthusiasm and loyalty to alma mater and to team, even through some tough seasons. And so among the ideas Guido came up with, many of which we're going to enjoy on Saturday night, videos on the scoreboards, music in the stadium, was representing the unity of We Are Penn State by getting the student section to all wear one color. And of course, because blue and white are our colors, it just made sense. White's really striking. It stands out. Yes, the Winnipeg Jets had already proven that it worked in an arena. And so for the Purdue game that year, Heisman Trophy candidate Kyle Orton, their quarterback coming in, we came up with the idea, let's try to get the student body to all wear white. And, they marketed the heck out of it in a day when there was not a lot of social media or ways to get the word around, just signs up on campus, announcements in the Daily Collegian, and the student body pulled it off. Now, it didn't work out on the field that year, but the next season, when Penn State had pulled out all the stops on the recruiting trail and really brought in the horses to match the enthusiasm they were enjoying from that student section, we had that Ohio State game. Number 6, Ohio State comes in to face number 16, Penn State. Nittany Lions are 5-0 in the middle of a resurgent season. And under the lights, that is just a game that if you were there, you will never forget it. And a big part of it was, first of all, the just gorgeous aesthetic under the night and under the lights of that student section all in white. And like I said, the fanaticism that Kirk Herbstreit calls the greatest student section in America. And so from there, the legend of the whiteout is set. And within the next 2 seasons, it spreads through the entire stadium. Guido has said it was one thing to get the student body who are all kind of concentrated in one space and are used to kind of exuberance, we'll say, to get them to play along. It's an entirely different thing to get alumni and fans who are spread out all over the place, who are getting their information all different ways, who are maybe not always the most cooperative with change, we'll say, to buy in and dress head to toe in white and make this thing work stadium-wide. And if you announce you're going to do it and you don't pull it off, that's a PR debacle. Absolutely. And so he said, we got to wait for the right opponent and the right game and the right time. And that was a primetime kickoff against Notre Dame in 2007. And so credit again to the Penn State fan base. They pull it off with flying colors, no pun intended. And then from there, the all-stadium whiteout just becomes a thing we know we can do. And the story of it has just spread because of some of the great games and great moments that happened under the lights of the whiteout. The following season, a great win against a ranked Illinois team. Derek Williams scores touchdowns, returning kicks as a receiver and as a ball carrier. Of course, you've got the 4 overtime win over Michigan in 2013, the block kick against Ohio State in 2016 when we upset them, when we were unranked and we were number 2, go on to win the Big Ten title. The Mo Bamba moment where we forced Michigan to take a timeout before they can get a single offensive snap off, all dating back to that one moment against Ohio State in 2005 where the 9,000 people in the stadium that night set the tone for everything that followed. And here we are.
And you notice that is why we call him the professor.
My mind was blown there. One, Kyle Orton, shout out. That brought me back.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that is amazing. And then just like the history that I had no idea. Chris, I had no idea about that. That is phenomenal. I had no idea Beaver Stadium was once a quiet stadium.
Oh, it was rough.
That is insane.
Yeah, not so good. Not so good.
It was literally, that was the reputation. And it's like, don't you dare stand up. Because down in front was the response. That was it.
Wow.
So that's what makes this transformation so much more impressive, is you had to be there prior, I think, to really appreciate the way it is now. And it's amazing. And Chris and I, we can grasp the fans' reaction to it, how much different this game is. I'm curious, Mike, from a guy who's in the building, what's the effect on the players? I know they're aware of it, but how is this game different for them?
I mean, you get Pat McAfee up in the lobby, and they're coming through today. I think that hits them a little bit. Oh man, we're playing tomorrow. This is pretty cool. Pat McAfee, who everybody loves, is right there. Nick Saban coming up there. I just passed him on the way. It's just everything. The city, not the city, but this town is now packed. A little bit different than it was here last week at BW threes. So it's just different. I think, Coach does a good job and the staff of trying to keep that 1-0 mentality. But, after playing 3 subpar type of opponents, and now you have the whiteout against Oregon and all the other different things that you can talk about, it's huge for them. And they feel that. They feel that as a player.
And it's interesting. I think as the professor went through the history, as Chris makes a face at me for that, and there were some unbelievable moments, block kick, return for touchdown, the 4 overtime against Michigan. But the one moment, and you mentioned it, that to me, watching the games represents the whiteout is, again, Michigan before they could even get a playoff, Mike. The first play, they can't get one play off without needing to call a timeout. And if you watch the replay of it, what's really fascinating, and I was just watching it yesterday, is watch the players' reaction to it, turning to the fans and trying to get them to keep, as if they needed encouragement at that point.
Think about how much free marketing that has gotten Penn State football, that moment. I mean, it really is. It's just, to me, having been on both sides of the transformation of Beaver Stadium, it is a really cool story to think back to that moment under the mist, under the lights against Ohio State, when you got to understand so much was on the line in that game. Because for all of us who had grown up with Penn State football under Joe, as much as you maybe tried not to, just as much as I maybe try not to take for granted that I got this spectacle of college football in my backyard, we probably took for granted a little bit the year over year success. And when it went away and you didn't know if you were ever going to get it back, and it was this thing you cared about so much, not just the team, but alma mater and the town, the place, everything. And then all of a sudden it just pops back into being in an environment like that. The emotional release that came with that, it was like a switch flipped. I mean, Jim, you and I were both up in the box for that game. And what I will never forget is Penn State is leading Ohio State 7-3. They just scored a touchdown. Ohio State goes back on offense, and Troy Smith, their quarterback, throws a pick to Calvin Lowry, and Lowry runs it back to the 2-yard line. And so I talked about Guido D'Elia and all the different things he was trying, and how all the traditionalists, and I will include myself in that number, like, what's all this? This is not Penn State football. What are you? You're playing music inside Beaver Stadium? Why is there? We don't put those videos up there. That's not college football. And so you can go back. You can look at the Daily Collegian. There are letters to the editor from the 2004 season specifically complaining there is this stupid German techno song they keep playing. And why do they keep playing this damn song? Stop playing this techno song. Because the pump had been primed through those difficult seasons. When Guido kicked up Zombie Nation at that moment, everybody is just ready to pop, and Lowry picks that ball off, and we know we're about to take a 14-3 lead on these guys. The stadium just explodes, and it's not just the student section who are leading the way, but you remember there were like grannies up on our side of the station bouncing up and down. It was the first time the stadium shook.
Yeah, and when Chris says the stadium shook, Mike, that's not hyperbole. It was actually a little bit scary. Because of the motion, like the suites are actually a separate building in effect.
Yeah.
And it started to sway.
I just kept telling myself we're in engineering school. Like clearly these people knew what they were doing. I'm trying not to think what it looks like on the outside because you could see and feel the movement.
Well, it's kind of like you ever see that when they have high rises, like towards the top, there is movement, which is important. That's doesn't threaten the structural integrity. Well, that's what you're experiencing. Okay, fine, structural integrity, but it scared me a little bit. I'll admit it. But it was such an atmosphere to be by. Now, I looked then for the players, and we talked about this for recruiting. So here's Troy, who we had on earlier on our show. He was fantastic. He has committed to Penn State, and he has not been to a whiteout.
No.
Okay. What do you think the conversation with him and those other players who are going to be on that sideline, what it's going to be like for them after experiencing their first whiteout?
I think it's going to change it. It's a moment that I'll never forget, right? Like I'll never forget my first whiteout. It was against Coach Harbaugh in Michigan. It was a day game. They ended up pulling that one out, but then that next year it was just totally different. It was a Ohio State game, right?
Yeah.
That was the whiteout, right? The Ohio State game.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just to make sure. I was trying to think, but I was like, I know because the Ohio State game is always a big game, but that was the craziest first time of whiteout that I was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is incredible because it was at night, and then
totally different deal.
Yeah, and we had all these recruits there, and there's usually a plan to take them somewhere after the game and go see coach's post-game press conference, but everybody stormed the field. So everybody just turned into little kids. The recruits. I was in charge of Micah Parsons and making sure he got to where he was. I didn't know where the hell he was. So I'm going on the field looking for Micah, making sure he's not getting ran over. We were just like little kids. But, yeah, those memories these guys will never forget. The players will never forget, especially for the first time. This one being Troy's, it's going to be a really special one for him and his entire family is here.
Well, you remind me when you said about you were in charge of Micah Parsons. I'm glad that you eventually found him. That all worked. How did he end up? Did it work out all right?
Yeah, he was good. We can talk about Micah and his stories that I got to enjoy, but he was a real hoot in the recruitment process.
Well, let me because we brought this up, the conversation. You have to lasso these guys, get them from here to there. We saw Kenny was here with Troy, bringing them in, and first of all, upwards of 200 recruits.
Yeah, so you can think, they bring guests, so it's probably closer to 600 people total.
This has got to be a logistics nightmare.
Oh, yeah. We'll have Kenny and some of his staff on the show in the coming weeks, and we'll get to talk to them about that. But what they do, because I lived it, I worked it for the last 10 years, I have such an appreciation for Kenny and his staff, AZ, Slim, and DJ, those guys, and Andy Frank, who has to oversee all of that. It's incredible. You get this. So one of the on-campus director, she had left to just take a position at another school in the NIL space. So they were hiring. Her first day is today. First day. So welcome to Penn State.
Welcome to the club. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but back to what you were saying. What the logistics in it is incredibly insane when you are around those guys and you hear them. And we'll be able to talk to Kenny and them, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I think the audience will really enjoy to hear it.
Oh, I think so too. It's always that peek behind the curtain. So, Chris, that's behind the curtain.
Yeah.
But this is not just about the football team. This is a state college event.
Sure.
This is a week. Now, you're a local.
I am.
I come in from out of town, and, my first reaction is to bitch about the traffic, just getting down College Avenue. I am not a happy camper, okay? All right. By the way, back in Berwick, we don't have this kind of traffic. This is the big city for me. But Chris, you're local.
Yeah.
Just what is the effect on the fan base, the businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, the bars, the students, the people who live in this town?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, there's I get kind of two general flavors of locals, Jim. There are folks like myself who are here because they chose to live in a college town and embrace everything that goes along with it. And then there are the folks who would love to live with all the perks of a college town without the actual college. So I can't speak for those folks other than to say I'm sure they're quite cranky and cannot wait for this weekend to be over, whereas I am just hoping to soak up every minute of it and have it not fly by too fast. I tell people all the time, this community is called State College for a reason. There was nothing here when they decided to put a land-grant university in the middle of cornfields and cow pastures. So the place grew up right alongside the university. And as a result, it gives you a relationship between town and gown that is, I don't want to say unique, but pretty close to it across the country and certainly in the Big Ten. I think maybe Bloomington is the only one that really comes close. And so for me, there's almost like it's sort of like a high school football vibe on steroids where the whole town gets jazzed up around the big games for the football program. And to me, if you're somebody who embraces that and loves it, there's just nothing like it. We've got a dozen people coming in this weekend. Some of them are here already. I don't know how we're going to fit them all inside a townhouse, but we're going to figure it out.
Professor's residence.
And we're going to have a blast. So, and I know I've talked to people who are having 15, people who are having 10. I haven't seen it like this since Alabama came to town back in 2011. It's awesome.
Well, and it brings up something you and I discussed yesterday. We were talking about is in our little town here, our little community. Here is perhaps one of, if not the premier college football event. I think a lot of people do take it for granted that we have this right here.
Man, it's so hard not to. It's anything in life to not take for granted what you've got. And I was telling you, Jim, I'll tell you this, Mike. So this week, I found this video on YouTube called Europeans React to the Whiteout. And it's this kid and his dad find on YouTube, and you can go and you can watch this too on YouTube. I guess it was ABC when they were here for the 2019 whiteout. They posted online the full Skycam version of that game. So you can watch the whole game just from the camera on the track that's suspended above the stadium. And they're watching this and reacting to it. And, they're just oohing and eyeing about, look at how many people and look at how loud it sounds there and look at how excited they are. Man, I wish I could be there. And seeing it through the eyes of just two people who had never encountered anything like it, didn't know what college football is, never heard of a whiteout. I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm going to be there. And by the way, I don't have to pay $600 a ticket like some people I'm hearing about. But I'm going to be here. This is in my backyard. This is 10 minutes from my house. I really got to be appreciative of what I have as a local to State College and as a Penn State alum. Really, it's pretty special.
To that, Jim, what Chris said, I did leave, so I realized how good I had it.
You lost it for a while.
I lost it. The kettlebells, and then I go to Huntington. That's a whole nother bird. And then Blacksburg. It's cute. 70,000, but nothing like this. So yeah, you really do take it for granted. And once you go away, you're like, wow, that is such a special experience.
And I just gotta let you know this, Mike. This is the influence you have on me. I am not going to be able to watch a Mississippi State game again and hear the cowbells without reacting. That's cute.
It's cute.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
Oh, Enter Sandman. That's cute. Come back, guys. Here's what the big boys do.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
It's like, okay, it's great. Yeah, jump around, great. Enter Sandman, great. I mean, these are cool things. I'm not diminishing them at all.
I am.
Okay, fine. Yeah, that's fine. Whether you want to diminish them or not.
I do.
What it's not is 4 hours of wall-to-wall mania, along with just that amazing visual and just the energy you get from the sheer number of people. There's been a lot of fun back and forth with the Oregon fans online this week. And I mean that truly. I like a feisty, engaged fan base, and God bless those Oregon folks. They are that. There's been a lot of talk about like whose stadium produces a higher decibel level. Like at this point, like we're parsing decibels, okay? And I saw somebody, an Ohio State fan, kind of jump into the conversation as the neutral third party, and they said, "What you don't understand." And Outson is loud. I mean, they went out there and they ate an L last year. There is just a human energy that comes from 110,000 people just directing their heart, mind, and soul down at you, willing you to lose a game and willing the home team on, that you can't quantify it, but when you're in the building, you sense it and you know it's there. And that's just the capacity of Beaver Stadium.
Yeah. You know who hates the whiteout? Is every other head coach and coaching staff in the country.
Sure.
They hate this game because they don't want their recruits or their commits going in this game, but it's hard to stop them.
Yes, and well, that's the thing, because it has transcended. It's not a game anymore. It's an event. The whiteout, it's a bucket list kind of thing. And you mentioned about the interaction with online with Oregon fans. I'm really anxious, Chris.
Love them in the YouTube comment section, Jim. They're delightful folks.
They were getting after Landon Tangwell. That was pretty funny.
Oh, yes.
He's great at it.
Yeah.
He's good.
But that's a difference between college football and the NFL, though. You and I are both Eagle fans.
Correct.
If you go to Philadelphia for an Eagles game and the Cowboys are in town, it's not fun banter interaction.
Yeah, no.
It gets violent. It gets scary. You don't go into the Eagles stadium, into the link wearing Cowboys gear. You just don't do it if you're smart, which is just incredible to me that people will still do that. Now, we're going to be taking a break here at the top of the hour. When we come back, I want to talk about actually Oregon, what we're going to see from them. Mike, I want to talk to you more about those recruits who are going to be on the sideline. Maybe we could coax Mike into talking about a few of them. Sure. Let us know who's coming in, some of those highly rated guys. And it's going to point out that how important this game is now to recruiting. It's a difference maker. And when we get back, Mike's going to tell us about a few of those players. Let's go to break, and we'll see you after the break.
WFXS, Fuzzy Gas, your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority. WFXS America. 98.7, the Fox State College.
Happy Valley United is the NIL collective that serves all 31 sports and over 850 student athletes at Penn State. These opportunities allow student athletes to engage with charitable causes and participate in business engagements to build their brands while making a positive impact. The collective connects fans, alumni, businesses, and charities with student athletes harnessing the power of Nittany Nation. Go to happyvalleyunited.com to connect with your favorite Nittany Lion team.
Whether a department outing, entertaining your clients, or reconnecting with your family and friends, let Revel XP take the hassle out of tailgating. Simply show up and immerse yourself in the tailgating experience. Full service includes bellhops helping upon arrival and tear down when you're ready to leave. Revel XP elevates your tailgate. Reach out to us directly at 814-933-4100 or go to revelxp.com for more info.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
Hello and welcome to Friday Football Frenzy, brought to you by Keystone Sports Network, Fox Sports Radio 98.7, and Happy Valley United, the Penn State collective supporting over 800 student athletes. Now, let's start the football frenzy.
Hello and welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings. This is the Friday Football Frenzy on Fox Sports 98.7, brought to you by Happy Valley United. That's the Penn State collective, supporting 31 collegiate sports at Penn State and over 800 student athletes. We're coming to you from Buffalo Wild Wings. Hey, I'll tell you what a great atmosphere. Place is just packed. If you walk through downtown State College, Chris, everybody is here. Every place is packed.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's just a great environment. Mike, this is what a college town should look like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Corner of Calder Way and Garner Street, for folks who are still familiarizing themselves with BW3s, hasn't been open that long. So Buffalo Wild Wings, for reference for the old heads like myself, it's the old parking lot across from the old movie theater.
That's how we reference
right by the
places.
Old gingerbread man.
So with Buffalo Wild Wings, I call it BW3s, and some people like look at me sideways when I say that. I say BW3s.
No, it's
BW3s, right?
Correct.
I
Absolutely.
think maybe it's the younger generation. And they're like, what the heck's that? Then you got to go back, and I think the original name was Buffalo Wild Wing WEC.
Oh, really?
Is that why it's called? See, I didn't even know that.
See, you never thought I would throw some knowledge on you guys. I'm the professor there.
I love it.
The professor's now the student.
That's the cycle of life, Jim.
Yeah, but that always bugs me when people are like, what are you talking about? I'm Buffalo Wild B-Dubs. Yeah.
Well, I just go by your reference, Mike, because you say I now learn. I told you, you're an influence on me. I'm learning. Now, I'm going to learn more from you right now, and so are our listeners. We're going to talk about some of the recruits. Oh my God, is that the list?
Yeah, and you know what? This was printed out. I printed this out yesterday, so it's a little outdated, but yeah, we're still floating around 200 players.
I'm not going to read. Here's what I want to do. I just wanted to hold this up for those folks who are watching on our YouTube channel. What that list looks like. That print is just too small for me, but the list, that's incredible. All right, give me a couple names that the fans should be aware of. Who are some of the key names that are on your list?
Well, I'll start with it's hard to really pinpoint one person, and I know this is maybe a kind of an easy out for me, but
there's 200 guys.
There's 200 guys, and usually out of a visitor list, there's maybe 80 guys, right? Maybe 15 of them are guys that you actually are recruiting hard at that point. And the others, you're still kind of flirting with them, still tracking them, or they're new or they're young. This list, every kid has offers in the country or is committed to us or we've offered them. So I think a big thing to note is most of our commitments are here. So you add this atmosphere, the power of just the game and the experience alone. Now you have the parents of these commits here with the commits to really recruit for us. They're our best recruiters. They're our biggest recruiters. So to me, that is the biggest thing, to have them here around the other families, the other recruits, to say, yeah, they don't have this at Ohio State, right? They don't have this at Florida State, huh? So that interaction goes so far for us when it comes to recruiting this weekend.
Chris, you got to imagine when you see, I hadn't thought about it that way, but there's going to be the kids who have already committed. It's like a generational thing. The guys who were here last year ahead of time, they now are commitments. They're now talking to the next generation.
Well, every class has its own kind of internal recruiters, their lead recruiters. I know Landon said he was kind of that for his class. Mike, do you guys do anything to cultivate that? Did you pinpoint who your recruiter is going to be and kind of prep them up and say, okay, now I need you to go out and go after so-and-so, or this is kind of how we're getting in with this recruit. You give them give them homework, I guess is what I'm asking.
I think as the class builds, that first commitment of that class, I think the message from Coach Franklin is now you're a recruiter. Now you're one of us. Yeah. And so then the second commit comes and he gets the same message. And then those two start talking about, all right, let's get together. Let's recruit Timmons that's committed to Florida State. And then you get a third, fourth, fifth commit. And then you have 24, 25 commitments all together collectively recruiting the top guys that we still want.
Is that Lawrence Timmons' kid?
You know what? That's a great question.
Good God, I hope not. That would make me feel super old if that's true.
But you know what's funny, though?
Oh, no.
Because I remember playing with Lawrence Timmons when he was at Florida State on college football. And because I used to be a gamer back in the day when I played at West Virginia, and I used Florida State. I remember.
You know what it is? It is because I saw something about that on social media, and I thought, oh, man, now that we're going after this kid, I better not make any comments about how the Steelers should have took Posluszny instead of him.
Yeah, stay away from that. But it's interesting, Mike, you were talking about the leaders, the guys who kind of lead the class, the early commitments. But I'll always remember we talked to Sean Clifford when he was still in high school, who, by the way, was just tremendous on our show. He was great. And one thing always stuck with me, he said, we asked him about being a leader in his class, trying to recruit, being a recruiter himself. And his answer, I couldn't believe it for such a young guy. He pointed out, I'm a quarterback. You are, by the nature of that position, a leader. And it's got to start right away. It's part of the job. It's part of the responsibility. Just curious, and that this is after us talking to a quarterback earlier here today. Is that typically how it works? Oftentimes, the quarterback becomes a leader of a class.
Yeah, most of the times, just naturally. You know, I think it's more relevant now than when it was when Clifford was here, because I was 15 was his class, and I had just gone here, and absolutely fell in love with Sean and his family. Still see that family. I would love to have them on the show. They're great people. But yeah, I just think naturally the quarterback is, but there's always like one or two guys just have that like Superman personality, and it doesn't matter what position, but there's always that like alpha male in the recruiting class that kind of helps lead that charge along with the quarterback.
And Chris,
yeah,
up in the stands watching this game, how often will your eye just sort of turn to the sideline to see those players there?
Well, Jim, I could take your cue and give you an imaginary answer that would play into it, but I'm going to be honest with the folks, and the answer is not at all. I am not thinking about recruits. I am not thinking about anything other than the next play. I mean, people who sit around me, they don't even talk to me. They have learned if they want to talk to somebody, they can try my wife. But it's like they don't, I think some people like somebody like, oh, look, that's Chris. This is great. I'm going to get to talk to him about the game. No. I am LTFI, just like the team. All right. So whoever is in charge of doing all the great stuff with football recruiting, like that's their job. my job is to jump up and down and scream and yell for 4 hours. So I am totally dialed in on, as Bill Belichick would say, I am doing my job. All right.
Well, it's a chance for me to segue to one of my favorite stories. In that 2015 game, I sat next to Fran Fisher.
Oh, that's awesome. No, 5 game, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And what happened?
What a legend. And what a super nice dude.
Yes, one of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met in my life. And I know before your time, do you know who Fran Fisher?
I do. Yes, I do.
And it was in the alumni box. And one of the things for that game, I don't know if you remember this, there was talk that Joe was, we're not bringing in recruits. We don't need the distraction.
Yeah.
No recruits here. No recruits there. And this is my first time meeting Fran Fisher, and we're chatting, and I brought that up to him. He looks at me like, no, do not believe that. And he says, look down there, and he points out, like, he said, look along right around the 20-yard line, and there's a whole bunch of kids lined up.
Yeah,
and he said, they're all there. He said, don't you believe what he's telling you? And there's your visual proof. So anytime I could work Fran Fisher into a conversation, it's a good thing.
Amen.
All right. You know what? Time to switch gears. We actually, guys, we have a football game tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Chris, you told me, let's start with you. You told me you did your homework on Oregon. What do you expect to see from Oregon tomorrow?
Well, I got to pull my homework up. I don't know all the numbers right off the top of my head. Well, I will tell you this right now. I do remember this. This is no shock to anyone, okay? This is a game that is truly worthy of what we have been clamoring for these last few years, which is a chance to play one of our marquee opponents under the lights so we could get the white out in the best possible environment. Because, as you were saying, Mike, you play this thing under the noonday sun, it's still awesome. It's quite literally night and day in terms of the effect and the advantage that it gives to Penn State inside their building. Oregon has offloaded a lot of talent from that team we saw in Indy in the Big Ten title game, but they've got a great brand. They've got a great program. They've got a lot of resources at their disposal. We'll just
by
say
that you mean NIL money.
Correct. And so they're in that reload, not rebuild mode. And so one guy they do bring back who had a fair amount of success against Penn State, although I would say he scored 2 touchdowns where both were just kind of on blown coverages, is their tight end Kenyon Sadiq. Might be the best tight end, certainly among the best in the sport this year, and kind of reminds you a little bit of Tyler Warren in that they will move him all around. They're not just going to line him up as a traditional inline tight end. They'll flex him out. They'll put him in the backfield, kind of similar to what we saw Andy Kotelnicki do with Sadiq last year. And there's going to be an interesting kind of game within a game where I think this year he will match up with Tony Rojas, who's our best coverage linebacker. Now, Tony was not matched up against Sadiq at all last year because he was their number 2 tight end. They actually had a kid who was a second-round draft pick of the Rams this past year, and that's who Tony was matched up against. So now we're going to see those two go mano a mano, and it's going to be interesting to see how much Tony follows him around and what Will Stein does to try to get Sadiq into mismatches. But to throw out some stats, and I'm going to apologize in advance, these are PFF college stats. I know PFF is very polarizing. I personally am not a huge PFF college guy. I think there's just too much stuff going on, too much subjectivity introduced into the equation, especially when they do their college stats. But for whatever they're worth, right now, Tony Rojas is our highest rated pass defender, and he is the 16th highest rated linebacker in pass coverage in the country. He finished last season in the PFF college stats number 4 overall in coverage against among linebackers. So to me, given everything we heard about, kind of the way the season ended last year for Tony, battling through some injuries that he couldn't take the time to heal up or get the surgery, and how he's looked so far this year based on, what we were prepared for, which is wait till you see this guy now that he's had a full off season to get healthy and recover. I think that, to me, is one of the most interesting matchups going into tomorrow night. It's Kenyon Sadiq, who is going to get his targets and he's going to get his catches, versus Tony Rojas.
What that leads me to think about, and knowing Tony Rojas, and we know how athletic he is, and I'm asked this to you, Mike. I've heard about national pundits, how athletic, how fast this Oregon team is, the athletes. But it leads me to conversations you and I have had about this Penn State defense. They're not necessarily going to be out-athleted, are they, the Penn State defense?
No, I don't think so. I think people get enamored with like the tradition of Oregon. They're kind of the jerseys, the glitz, the glamour, all of that, and they were always. I mean, even back in the day when they made it in the national championship game, it was speed, right? Spread them out, speed, and athleticism. I just think they're at the level where they have the resources to recruit well, just like us and some of the top schools in the country, that they're going to get these guys that are fast, athletic, that are NFL type caliber guys. But for us, Coach Franklin and the staff has done such a good job to match that. If not, we have better athletes, in my opinion, to match up with those guys at the tight ends and stuff like that. Like Tony Rose is a freak, right? That back end, we have some freaks back there. You know what I mean? And now we have the horses at the D line to hopefully help the back end. I just think we match up well against them, if not better.
And Tony Rojas was what clicked with me talking athlete. This is a linebacker who runs like a 4.37.
Yeah. When did you hear? Like when I was getting recruited, I was just like elated when they lied and said I ran like a 4.9. And I was a linebacker, DN type tight end. But yeah, now these guys are running 4.3s. Tony's a freak, obviously, running them 4.3s. But yeah, it's insane, and you got guys all across the board with our roster that are similar to Tony and just do have freakish numbers.
You were just happy if the first number was a 4.
Oh my gosh, yeah! I remember then, and then I had my first letter ever as a sophomore was from Joe Paterno, and I remember putting it on my fridge, and then got invited to a Nike camp. Back in the day, it was like the opening. I was thrilled, and it was here, and it was like select guys at that time, and I ran a 5.3. That was the end of my recruitment with Penn State.
No more letters from Joe?
No, not at all. The Buffaloes letters started coming in. All those MAC schools started honing in on me.
We could make them one of our own.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, you know what? I was tired. We just drove from Youngstown, Ohio. I've been in the car all day.
But it's phenomenal to me. Just in 20 years ago about that you played?
Yeah, 2003 is when I graduated high school.
Okay. So isn't it amazing how athletic the play, just the difference in a decade or two, these guys, Tony Rojas were not on the field when you played. Got linebackers who could run like that.
You know what? Just thinking about it right now, to be fair, but there's more publicity to it right now. The social media, everything. Everybody knows what everybody's doing, and all of these different camps all around the country, year round, essentially. You didn't have that. There's freaks, back then too. You just didn't really know about them, like the LeVar Arringtons and stuff like that. You just didn't. They weren't out in the public like they are now. So I think, you still have the same amount of talent that you did back then. It's just it wasn't out there like it is now.
Well, I'm projecting back to when I was in college,
with the big neck rolls and the huge shoulder pads. Now it's like the less is better.
Well, and at my time, that huge offensive lineman was 270.
Yeah.
So, kind of a different world from my time back then. But anyway, Chris, let's talk about, again, this is Penn State, Oregon.
Yeah.
We know Penn State, Oregon played in the Big Ten championship game last season.
Yes.
High-scoring game. The offenses look very good. I think Drew Aller had a pretty good game back then.
Sure
but
did.
Also, the running backs, correct me if I'm wrong, did they not both get 100 yards in that game?
Yeah.
Both Nick
Yeah.
Singleton
I mean, Penn
and
State
Tavon
finished just
Allen.
a few yards shy of 300 on the ground overall.
So how much can we take away from that? How much can we take from what we saw there and move that forward and say we can, hey, because Penn State ran the ball so well, we could expect to see that again. What can we take from that game last year?
I think so. If you look at again, it's so difficult to evaluate either one of these teams based on the competition that they've faced so far. So I really don't want to read too much into it, because part of it is these guys are aware of who they're playing. I mean, I know that you want to know, but they look at the tape. They know what's going to be out on the field across from them. I do think there are lessons to be taken away from Penn State's success on the ground, both in terms of looking at particularly Northwestern, who is probably the quote-unquote best team that Oregon has been able to face so far, and some of the success Oregon was able to have on the ground against them. But to me, even more importantly, the continuity of personnel for Penn State on the offensive line and in the backfield. We've already seen them do it against the caliber of competition. Oregon's bringing back most of their front four. There's been the back seven, there's been a little bit more turnover. So it's not like it's a complete apples to apples comparison. But based on everything we know about those backs and what they've done over the course of their career, based on the confidence level that I continue to have in the offensive line and Phil Troutwine coaching them up, I can look at that tape and say, you know what? Throw out whatever you've seen, good or bad, versus FIU and Villanova. I feel actually pretty good that those guys are going to be ready to play and grind it out on the ground against Oregon on Saturday night. And I do think the atmosphere will play into that. I think the environment will only help.
And, Mike, we talk about often with you the 1-0 attitude every week. Obviously, you got to focus on what's in front of you that week. But now, this is a different game. It's a conference game. It's Oregon. It's a big game. It's all of those things. Tell me about, I don't think there's any doubt that the players will be jacked up for this game. There's that. How much difference does that make realistically that, here are these, it's unfair to say the offensive line is struggling, but they haven't been as dominant as we hoped they would be or we thought they would be. How much difference does it make to go into a game with this kind of feeling to it?
I think it's the whiteout. We already talked about that today. So that's one thing to get up for. But then the first three games, we're here nitpicking at things, right?
Yes.
Against the first three opponents. And they hear that, right? They're on social media. They hear the stuff. And then, as of late, at least coming through my feeds, it was, Oregon's going to do this. We're not going to be able to do that against Oregon. That is playing in our favor. If I'm a player, you know what I mean? Like, it's now the target is not on our back; it's on their back. You know what I mean? They're talking crap about us. All right, let's prove them wrong and go out there and kick the shit out of them. You know what I mean? I swore. I apologize, but I think it's just it's a different dynamic when people are talking nationally about how Oregon is a better team than us, and so that is just what rat poison Coach Saban calls it.
Yes.
That is great for us and our players because they're gonna take that and play with a chip on their shoulder. And that's your Penn State teams, right? That they play with a chip on their shoulder, blue collar. So feed us that fuel, and we'll take it all day. You know what I mean? Instead of we're bringing back all these players, we're the number whatever rank. No, now it's okay. They don't think we're that good. All right, let's prove it to them.
This is where you prove it. Well, let's look at this, Chris, from the opposite side. You're Oregon. You're now traveling cross country. Yeah. You've never experienced a whiteout.
Probably somebody is going to try to slip you some maybe rancid Altoona style pizza. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a photo of that. You can Google it. You wouldn't have to do anything to it.
No.
You've heard all the conspiracy theories about Michael Jordan and the flu game and, the food they were delivering to his house at that Utah hotel. I'm just saying, I'm not encouraging anyone to do anything.
No,
but it's out of my control if a little Altoona-style pizza shows up at the Oregon hotel this evening.
Far be it for me to advise the Oregon contingent, but avoid it. Avoid the Altoona pizza. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, look it up.
Look it up.
It's brutal. You'll be just disgusted by it.
It's that.
Oh, my God.
Mike,
do you know what Altoona pizza is?
No, I've obviously been in Altoona State there plenty of times.
We're going to let him react to some photos from Google. There you go, buddy.
That is, and for our listeners,
you get better prison pizza than this, probably. That's incredible.
Here, click on one of these and just hold it up to the camera.
That looks like
at least the people who are.
There we go.
It just slapped like a piece of cheese on the top and liked it. That's incredible.
For three guys whose names end in a vowel,
awful.
We are rightfully offended by that. We're offended by that. All right, I'm going back to my question again with you, Chris. Oregon, they're traveling the length of the country. We saw last year in the Big Ten, it didn't seem to work out so well. So just how big of an issue is that for Oregon going through the cross-country travel, seeing a whiteout for the first time? What effect on them?
I mean, it's significant. I mean, I know from talking to Mike the mailman plenty about this over the years, the biggest gambling degenerate in the Nittany Valley, that's a big factor that the Sharps look at when they're setting lines and they're picking favorites, is who's making the coast-to-coast trip. I mean, Jim, how many years have you been hearing about the Rams and the Raiders back when they were in Oakland or L.A., especially the Seahawks? Any of those teams that were going coast-to-coast to play one of the East Coast teams, that it's a real factor. There's no question in my mind. And the additional travel, all the other accommodations that have to get thrown in, the body clock, and then at the end, your booby prize at the end of the rainbow is you get to walk into that whiteout environment and go up against. I want to circle back just for a minute to talk about Penn State's defense, and then we could talk on the other side of break in a little bit more depth about the matchup. But I just want to talk and highlight before we go to break, generally, the speed at every level of Penn State's defense is as good as I have seen it in 35 years of being a fan. And
Wow.
Mike, I'd be curious just to hear a contrast from when you were here with the program previously to now. I feel like just, again, at every level, these defensive linemen are crazy fast, especially some of these young kids. I just look at it and I think a big advantage Penn State could give itself is if they can get in and just pop Dante Moore in the mouth early. And, man, I see the secondary that's fast enough to keep up even with the Decorian Moores of the world and play that complementary football to give one of those fast edge rushers their chance to go in there and get their shot. I feel great about our chances to do that, just top to bottom, fast roster.
Yeah, we talked about it in the past about the evolution of the recruit and the type of recruit that Coach Franklin has been recruiting. And then when I was here, it was like, all right, let's get those long, tall, fast guys from offensive line, defensive line to defensive backs. You want them tall, you want them athletic, you want them fast. And we had those, I feel like, from 15 to 17. You had your Saquon Barkleys and your KJ Hamlers and your studs that were fast, but could collectively across the board, you had holes, right?
Well, and you didn't have the depth.
Right.
So you
exactly.
had those guys. You didn't have as many of them, and you didn't have as many of them in the 3 deep like Penn State does now.
Exactly. And then you talk about the depth with the back end. Like those guys that are coming in, those guys are just as fast, and they're not a liability, on the field. So and now you have these young guys coming in, like the Tasmanian Devil. You have Darius Dixon. Like they're coming in, and they're not losing a step. That's huge for us. Huge for us to compete against a team like Oregon.
And that's so important. That's what I was going for when we were talking about Oregon. They get the narrative. They're more athletic. They're faster, all of that. Oh, could those, guys from Pennsylvania, farmland, keep up, with the, they look slow in the black shoes. Well, guess what? They're not slow. They're pretty fast back there.
Yeah, I would add, if you ask an NFL scout, who's going to have more first day one draft picks, it's going to be Penn State. Everybody across the board will tell you that. So it's not that narrative of the past where we don't have those athletes and the speed. All right, and we'll see that this April during the draft, we will probably have the most draft picks of any school in the country. So. Yeah. You got to think about that. Those guys aren't going to be drafting slow, small guys.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to look at that too as well.
When we come back, I want to ask both of you about the fact that Jim Knowles hired as defensive coordinator. He faced Oregon twice last year. I'm going to ask what effect that has on his game plan. We're going to do that right after this break.
WFXS, once again.
Your sports radio. Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority. WFXS America.
98.7, the Fox State College.
Happy Valley United is the NIL collective that serves all 31 sports and over 850 student athletes at Penn State. These opportunities allow student athletes to engage with charitable causes and participate in business engagements to build their brands while making a positive impact. The collective connects fans, alumni, businesses, and charities with student athletes harnessing the power of Nittany Nation. Go to happyvalleyunited.com to connect with your favorite Nittany Lion team.
Whether a department outing, entertaining your clients, or reconnecting with your family and friends, let Revel XP take the hassle out of tailgating. Simply show up and immerse yourself in the tailgating experience. Full service includes bellhops helping upon arrival and tear down when you're ready to leave. Revel XP elevates your tailgate. Reach out to us directly at 814-933-4100 or go to revelxp.com for more info.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors. People invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
Hello and welcome to Friday Football Frenzy, brought to you by Keystone Sports Network, Fox Sports Radio 98.7, and Happy Valley United, the Penn State collective supporting over 800 student athletes. Now, let's start the football frenzy.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Friday Football Frenzy live on 98.7 The Fox here in Happy Valley. Chris Bucanati pinch hitting for Jim Galante, getting you in out of break. No problem, Jim. So happy to do that. We are here at Buffalo Wild Wings in downtown State College, right on the corner of Calder Way and Garner Street. The house is packed. We are hosting Penn State fans. We've got some Oregon folks in here, and we're happy to have them, at least for the next 18-ish hours. After that, might get a little iffy. But we're waiting on Mike Villagrana to come back and join us. But it's been a great conversation so far today, Jim.
He'll be right back. And
you're back to being host now officially.
Yeah, I'm back to being host. What this
baton.
shows, okay, just like the Nittany Lion football team, we have depth.
Yeah, sure.
We have
absolutely.
depth. You know what? We rotate. We're 2 or 3 deep at each position.
Yeah.
So at host, hey, when I'm out for a play or two, boom.
What we like to do,
we don't
Jim,
lose anything.
Is we like to keep people on their toes with different personnel groupings.
That's right. That's right.
You guys earlier, you had Penn State's 2027 quarterback commit, Troy Hoon.
Yes.
And his dad on, which was awesome, like super cool to have those two guys together. And we want to thank the folks at Happy Valley United for making that happen, supporting over 800 student athletes here at Penn State, 31 varsity sports. Huge, by the way, sports weekend for Penn State beyond the football field. A lot of different sports in action. A lot of teams having great seasons. A lot of teams getting their season started up. Like, women's hockey just opened up last night. They're playing again against St. Lawrence, I believe, tonight. So just a lot of cool stuff going on. As somebody who grew up a Penn State fan, applied to one school, and never left, I still pinch myself that this is my life. I get to be in Happy Valley, and like I said, I got the whiteout in my backyard.
And the biggest event of the weekend, of course, ball game tomorrow. You'll be with 110,000 of your best friends, going crazy, wearing white. When we were going into break, I teased it that we're going to talk a little bit more about actual game action. I'll start this with you, Mike. Jim Knowles was brought in. You know what? Jim Knowles was brought in for games like this, okay?
Yeah, sure.
And he has a at Ohio State. So obviously he was a Big Ten defensive coordinator with a pretty good team there at Ohio State. He has the experience up against Oregon. Couple games last year, both in the early season, going out to Oregon, where Oregon escaped with a win. Then in the playoffs, Ohio State just blew them off the field. That was probably the best single game performance a year ago, all season, what Ohio State did. My question where I'm leading is there an advantage there, that Jim Knowles has such recent knowledge of facing Oregon?
Yeah, I think so, big time, right? It's like I look at it from like an NFL perspective. They usually play their conference twice a year, or their divisional team twice a year. New coordinators come in, or a rookie quarterback comes in, and he's like, oh, he's great, right? Because nobody knows how to play for him, right? But then they play him again, and then they got a good scouting report how to defend that certain quarterback or that new player or that new coordinator. And it's the same thing for Jim Knowles. He's played them. He knows what they're going to do. He's had scouting reports. He's gone 24 hours watching film with his staff before. And so this is the third time now that he's going to be facing him. So I think that's huge for him.
This is what you like to call a rubber match, Jim.
Yes, for Jim Knowles it is. We got an ambulance flashing lights outside.
That's how fire our show is.
Oh,
boom, boom, boom.
Oh, you are such a natural for this, Mike. You were concerned. Come on, you belong on the air.
He is evolving more and more into a broadcast personality with each week. I love it.
Oh man.
All right, so we talked to Mike about Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator, his exposure to Oregon, facing them multiple times. Chris, let's talk about the Penn State offense.
Sure.
We've heard it over and over again. We know with the, you win 52-6 and you get questioned, okay? Mm-hmm. That's what we had going on.
That's a privilege, by the way.
Yeah, it is. So if you're Andy Kotelnicki, you've got all these weapons on this Penn State offense. You've got the veteran offensive line. How are you attacking Oregon's defense?
I mean, I can't put myself inside Andy Kotelnicki's head. I'm not even sure I can imagine what it's like inside there, but I can tell you what I would do, Jim.
Go with that.
Coming from the
you are the professor, so we
coming
are
from the 3 yards and a cloud of dust school of football. I go back to the fact that Penn State has an offensive line that I think has a legitimate shot to do something which is done rarely, if ever, at Penn State or anywhere, which is start 5 guys who end up as NFL draft picks at the end of their college career. And so when I think about that decided advantage at the line of scrimmage, and I look at these two tailbacks, we were talking about great moments in the Penn State whiteout, what helped build the legend. One that gets forgotten a lot is Evan Royster set the all-time program rushing record against Michigan in front of the whiteout. And that record could fall not once but twice to both of our senior running backs. When I look at Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and that offensive line, I want to run it until they prove they can stop it.
How about you, Mike? When you look at it, I just named you offensive coordinator. You're offensive coordinator with this offense, all those tools, all those weapons. How are you attacking Oregon?
I don't know. This has been a thing with me that I've talked to you about. I don't know how Colt Nicky's going to do it. I feel like he's going to do some stuff that, and I don't know this at all, but I feel like there's going to be some really cool things, cool packages, motions, some things that we just have not seen at all. And he's going to roll out there this week. And then
I think you're going to see Trevor Pena used a lot more creatively than you needed to beat Nevada, FIU, and Villanova, because we've really seen flashes from him. I will say, I know Coach Franklin has said in some of his press availabilities when talking about the different transfer wide receivers that he feels Pena was actually a little bit more impressive than he and the staff were expecting when he came in. I've seen that too. I mean, the one thing I will say I think was a fair question to have about Pena coming in is he was so productive and successful at Syracuse last year. But number one, how much of that was system? But to me, even more importantly, how much of that was facing ACC caliber defensive backfields? I just take nothing away from the ACC, which is technically a Power 4 conference. Okay, look, we all know there's a top 2 and a bottom 2, and which one the ACC is in. And so I've been pretty impressed with him. I think he could be a factor in tonight's game. And another player who I love, who I think is going to be a factor and is probably not talked about enough, both among Penn State fans and nationally, is tight end Luke Reynolds, who I think has emerged as the most reliable pass catching option for Drew Aller, which is not to take anything away from the receivers. But you just see the instant chemistry there. And I think a reason why people have not talked about Luke as much as they probably should is because he has to come out from under the sizable shadow of Tyler Warren. I think if he was not taking over kind of the number one tight end role, although Khalil Dinkins is going to be a really important player for us tonight too, as a blocker and maybe as a receiving threat. But if Luke were not following Tyler Warren, given his profile as a recruit and what he has done so far in a Penn State uniform, I think more people would be talking about him. And I think because Oregon is not, in my opinion, likely to have a lot of success pressuring Drew Aller when he's dropping back to pass, only bringing 4. I think they're going to, they'll show a bunch of false fronts and they'll try to confuse the offense. They're ultimately going to have to bring more guys to get to Drew Aller. And that, I think, is going to open up opportunities for Luke Reynolds. And based on what we've seen so far, that's not a good thing for Oregon's defense.
Well, Mike, you and I have talked a bit about that tight end position and how impressive that room is. And if I have one thing that I'd put my finger on that I've been disappointed with the Penn State offense so far, it's been third down conversions. Just look at the numbers. They aren't good. I think that's actually where Luke Reynolds especially comes into play as that safety valve and a guy who yaks, the yards after catch. If it's 3rd and 4, I think all of a sudden Luke Reynolds becomes a primary receiver.
Yeah, I agree. And to what Chris was saying about Trevor Pena, I was surprised too. I knew he was pretty good, but when you see him in person, it's like he's not like a very overwhelming guy physically. But on the field, that first game, I was like, whoa, he is natural, hands smooth. Didn't know we could really use him like a gadget, like he's gonna be. So yeah, to Chris' point, I think he'd be, have a really big game. But also, these games, this is where legends are made, right? There's always an unsung hero, like Grant Haley coming up, scooping up that ball and taking it to the house. Marcus Allen, blocking the kick. I'm drawing a blank on the DN who made the game-winning sack. There's going to be that guy, maybe a Liam Clifford catches the winning touchdown, right? That people have almost kind of forgotten about because all of the other guys. that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. Who's the unsung hero that's going to step up in this game?
Someone will become a legend.
Somebody
If Penn
will
State
become a
wins
legend in this game.
Somebody will become a legend, Chris, right?
I love it. I love that idea. I'm all for it. Yes, please. Please.
All right.
Please.
You care to predict who that legend will be? How's
wow. Okay. Well, you had me highlight Chaz Coleman in my bold prediction when I was sitting in for Andy this week. So, you know what? Why don't I just roll with it? Because I was talking a lot about the speed advantage that Penn State has. I think at one point or another, we are going to have to rattle Dante Moore. And although I am expecting Dennis Sutton to have a great night, I think he draws so much attention. And there's, a potential to overlook Chaz just because there's not a whole lot of tape on him yet. I think maybe he's your guy who makes a big play.
Well, that highlights also, Mike, what you've been saying. You see this team being built around that defensive line.
Yeah. And you know what? My unsung hero is going to be either Alonzo Ford, or Xavier Gilliam.
Nice.
Because to Chris's point, you have Denai at the end. You have Zane Durant. That may free those guys up to have monster games.
I'm when you think of the unsung hero or that guy who's going to make that game-breaking play on offense, you think the running backs, you think wide receivers. I'm going to circle back to what we were talking about with Luke Reynolds. And I just think that he'll be targeted a lot, so he'll get opportunities. And I've just been so impressed with his ability to break tackles after the catch. That's how you create big plays, right, Chris?
Yeah, and I just actually want to go back to Mike's point about some of the other interior defensive linemen. Some of these guys are going to command double teams, which is going to create one-on-one opportunities for, Xavier Gilliam, Alonzo Ford, Ty Blanding. And to me, a big aspect of that is if they can get into the backfield and disrupt Oregon's running game on early downs and get them off schedule. I think that's going to be a big key for Penn State to not let Oregon get into third and short or third and medium, because they do have a lot of different ways to attack you in that Will Stein offense. Like very multiple. And if Andy Kotelnicki has, and I understand James says this isn't the case, and I can believe that about as far as I can kick him. And Andy has not held some things back in this game. I think Oregon has taken the opposite approach. They've taken advantage of the opportunity that they played 4 games against various types of joker opponent to throw every formation and personnel group you can imagine to the wall and give our coaching staff the job of spending the bye week and this week reviewing all of that tape and preparing for all the different looks they can show you. And I would much rather have them preparing to defend Oregon in a third and long than like a third and 4. There's so many different ways they can try to pick up that first down. Shutting them down early on first and second down, I think, is going to be a big part of the success if Jim Knowles and that defense can get it done on Saturday night.
I always emphasize, that third down conversion statistic. I know James likes to do this statistic or that one leads to victory. To me, I think it's third down conversion. I just want to circle back, Mike, when we're talking about who could be that unsung hero. It was so hard for me to resist the temptation. I see Vega Ioane catching a pass and scoring that winning.
That's her play, yeah. I hope that happens just for you, because you won't live it down. You'll get a picture signed by Vega, and then we'll get that up, and that'll be your claim to fame.
And I call eventually, if I keep saying it, Mike, when it does happen, I could say that I called it. But
Jim, if we try to throw a touchdown pass to an offensive guard in this game, I might have a coronary, just so you're aware.
And you know what? I wanted to bring up too, like we're talking about the unsung heroes and who needs to step up and play well, the coordinators and all that. There's always a coaching decision that just gets magnified because of the time, and it was so critical, good or bad. Where's that going to come from? That time late in the fourth quarter, we decide to do something that, if it doesn't work, we're going to get crushed. If we do, everybody's going to be so happy that Jane Franklin made that call.
Last season isn't last season without one of those calls at Minnesota.
Yeah, or think about Oregon, Ohio State. That decision they made to get the penalty at the end.
Yeah. Oh wow.
You know,
Yep.
like stuff like
Yep.
that chess battle is, obviously a huge thing. But Coach Franklin has such a good staff around him and a good process to make those decisions. I feel like we'll win that battle.
Well, you brought it. I'm glad you brought it up because I was headed there. That was a daring play. The fake punt, of course, is what we're talking about here. To me, Mike, that's playing to win the game.
Yep.
As opposed to, hey, what if we don't convert? We're giving up the ball in our own territory. A field goal could beat us. That wasn't the attitude.
Yeah, when you say play to win, I feel like we were doing the opposite of that in 2017 when we were at Ohio State. We were up, and then we had that block punt, and then we were just trying to just hold on to it while they were just charging us. But I think it's just a whole nother dynamic and a whole nother team.
And I get the feeling that James over the years, I just feel like he's very confident in this team, and if that moment comes, Chris, he will be proactive, not defensive, not waiting. He'll be the one who wants to control his destiny.
Well, I mean, look, people lose perspective on how young James was when he took over as head coach at Penn State, and you grow and learn in your profession. Everyone does that, no matter your job. And so I think the sum total of all of these game experiences that we've all gone through as fans and as a Nittany Nation, James Franklin and the staff are learning from those experiences as well. And I do think you're seeing a little bit more confidence. I mean, look, Jim, you were probably watching the Eagles last Sunday like I was. And what did they do? They had to wait till they were up against it. And then A.J. Brown said it right in the postgame. Like, we've got dogs. You just got to let us go out and be killers. And I think that's the type of team Penn State has this year. You can let them go out and be killers. And let me throw out another kind of hidden X factor, I think, in this game coming up tomorrow. And shout out to Tengwall because he's the one who put this on my radar. Going back to their tight end, Kenyon Sadiq, that guy loves to do a little extracurricular nonsense at the end of the blocks he finishes, and he's a great blocker. The one thing about the whiteout is there is so much emotional energy. It is such an intense atmosphere that everyone comes into it amped up. So another thing I'm going to watch is who has their guys ready to play on the right side of the edge. Yeah. Because if you let the emotion overwhelm you and you lose your discipline, that can be 15 crucial yards at a key moment in the game.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to see that. It's like, how do you control that emotion? Now, it's interesting as we talk about, like who that unsung hero is going to be. But how much of this will just be decided, Mike, in the trenches? Have the better offensive line, have the better defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, everybody tell you that's where it's all won, right? Between the lines. But I think we have the better offensive line, obviously the better defensive line right now. So that's where if you're a betting person, that's where I would put my money on. Who has the best O line and D line? And I think we do.
Yes, and I also, you got to at least talk about it, mention it. We get the big game. We all know James's record. We all know, with Drew with this. I feel like Drew is primed for a big game. Just instinct. I just feel like he's had been pointing to this game since Notre Dame.
Yeah, you know what? Seeing him this week, just in passing, he just has a really cool, calm, collected demeanor about him right now.
Love it.
Yeah, even
that's what you want.
Yeah, I saw him today before he got on to the Pat McAfee show, and you know what? I didn't even know he was going on, but he was just Joe Cool, man. Just seemed like perfectly calm. He's ready for this. He is.
This is his moment.
Just football. It's just football. I mean, this is not for as awesome as that 2016 Ohio State game was. This is not like a David versus Goliath underdog story. This is James's most talented team that he's had here. I don't think there's any question about it. I think it's the most top-end talent aggregated on the roster and the most depth. And depth is so important. I think going back to that post-Big Ten championship season, the differentiator for Penn State and the teams that were really playing at the elite tier, the ones that were going to the 14 playoff, was depth, the roster depth. Yep. And more important now than ever that we're playing more regular season and playoff games than we ever have before. I mean, there's you could conceivably, and we all hope Penn State plays 16 games this year. That's an NFL regular season.
Yes.
Or it was back until they started adding more games. But I think there is, I keep going back to the point that this is a game that deserves to be played in front of a national audience on this stage in a whiteout environment under the lights, because both of these teams deserve to be there. And I think if our guys understand that they belong on this field and they're better than these guys, they're in front of their own people, they're in their lair.
Mike, towards that end, what Chris is talking about, what this is James's best team. One of our listeners sent us a question, which I thought was really fascinating. So you step on an elevator with James Franklin. So you got time for one question.
Yeah.
What would that be? My answer to it was, all right, you talked about getting from great to elite. Now, you won't be. This team can't be called elite until after it does the things, after the games. That's when you're. But does he feel that everything has been done, all the processes, the talent of acquisition, the preparation in the offseason, the bringing in someone like a Jim Knowles, considered the best defensive coordinator in the country? Does he feel like this team, he's now reached elite status with this team?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 12 years to build up to this point, right? From his recruiting, from when I was here to where it's at now, to the staff, it's doubled from when I was here. And then everybody that's here, from a staff standpoint, it's calculated. They're here for a reason, for a particular job, to help and elevate, to get us from good to great, as Coach Franklin would say. I think we're there. I think him, just seeing him now from when I was here at first, he's got a more, I don't know, not more mature, but just he's got more of a calmer demeanor about himself. If I was in the elevator with him, I just would ask him, how do you do it? How do you do all this? Because I'm fortunate to be around him a little bit, and just to see him and everything that crosses his table, it's incredible. For him to his bye week, going to all these different schools for, and not getting home until 9:30, bouncing around, and then he's got all these media obligations, jumping on the Pat McAfee show while there's a game. There's a huge game. And so he can't do all the X's and O's, but he does a fantastic job at that as well. So it's just amazing what he does and how he does it. And I think Chris talked about it last week, about how we are lucky to have Coach Franklin. And we're lucky to be at this point where we're at as a whole.
All right, as we're wrapping up the show, I don't know if you're comfortable making prediction. I'm going to give mine at least.
Yeah.
I have it 31-20, the good guys, Chris.
Very good, Jim.
I think going into this game, they've been pointing to it for so long. The preparation's been done. Everything is in place that they could possibly want. I think this is the moment for James Franklin, for Drew Aller, and for the team.
It's been a pleasure breaking it down with you guys. This is fun. It's a great atmosphere downtown. People should come experience it.
No doubt.
If I had one question in an elevator with James Franklin, do you know what I would ask, Coach?
What's that?
I'd say, Coach, are you doing anything later? Or let's go down to the corner of Calder Way and Garner Street. We'll get some wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, or BW3s, as Mike and I refer to it.
And don't forget a cold beer, too. Mike and I already talked about that. That's the schedule as we wrap up here, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
a lot of
guys.
fun.
Awesome.
Let's do this again next home game.
Love it. Go State, beat
Can't
Ducks.
wait. Let's go.
WFXS, once again.
The Fox,
your sports radio.
Broadcasting live, loud and proud from Central PA's Sports Authority, WFXS America.
98.7, The Fox, State College.
Happy Valley United is the NIL collective that serves all 31 sports and over 850 student athletes at Penn State. These opportunities allow student athletes to engage with charitable causes and participate in business engagements to build their brands while making a positive impact. The collective connects fans, alumni, businesses, and charities with student athletes harnessing the power of Nittany Nation. Go to happyvalleyunited.com to connect with your favorite Nittany Lion team.
Whether a department outing, entertaining your clients, or reconnecting with your family and friends, let Revel XP take the hassle out of tailgating. Simply show up and immerse yourself in the tailgating experience. Full service includes bellhops helping upon arrival and tear down when you're ready to leave. Revel XP elevates your tailgate. Reach out to us directly at 814-933-4100 or go to revelxp.com for more info.
Two of the top names in local printing have combined to serve you better. King Printing of State College has merged with theprinters.com, forming one of the 400 largest printers in America. Combining traditional offset printing and digital workflow techniques, theprinters.com can print, assemble, package, and ship to anywhere in the world, all with the same high quality customers have known and trusted for over 50 years. Buy local and save. Get started today at theprinters.com.
I'm the Modelo Recruiter, and I'm looking for fans with good hands and great speed. The ones who stay focused and never miss a play. They go the distance on game day, even when their team is away. I'm always watching, always looking to reward more full-time fans. Because football isn't really football without you.
A lot has changed about State College. One thing that hasn't is W.C. Clark's Coffee Roasters on 234 East Calder Way. 30 different varieties of specialty coffee beans sourced from over 25 countries and roasted with love each morning in Happy Valley for over 45 years. They'll ship their fresh roasted coffee from their doorstep to yours. Order online at statecollegecoffee.com. That's statecollegecoffee.com.
Hi, welcome to Timberland Federal Credit Union, a financial cooperative for its members, tracing all the way back to 1973.
Experience Timberland Federal Credit Union, where you're greeted with a smile and financial solutions are tailored to your unique life journey. Here, we're not just financial professionals, we're your neighbors, people invested in your financial needs, literacy, and empowerment. Your dreams matter to us, whether they're about buying a home, growing a nest egg, or embarking on new adventures. TFCU draws from the past and invests in the future, offering modern tools like online banking to give you the freedom to manage your money practically anytime. Additionally, we're passionate about giving back both time and resources because enhancing our community is at the core of why we're here. Visit TFCU in person or online to learn more about our services and apply for a membership today.
Hello and welcome.